Hi, Eid Mubarak. Well, Kul Sana wa anta taib. Ah, yes, my Arabic. But it's a new beginning in the Middle East. It's a time of new beginnings after the great Eid al-Adha, the Eid of the sacrifice. And I wanted some kind of hope because we live in such a dark world, or it's seemingly dark. With Gaza, and all the rest. Well, there was my wife and I, Veronica and I, we went to a movie the other day, as we often do on a Friday night, and this time we saw something called Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. Now, there's a movie and a half, and it had Tom Cruise saving the world. It was boring for the first half of the movie. I mean, boring. The amount of time he spent fighting to get his way out of a submarine, and it was I fell asleep in the first bit because it was so complicated. I mean, the whole world was threatened by some great artificial intelligence that was about to take over everything, and strange, far-fetched, and tedious, really. And then the second half was mustard. Hot, spicy action, adventure with an edge. And yeah, after falling asleep in the first half, the second half of this very long movie, really awesome. Good. I thought. Anyway, I did. I mean, maybe I'm easily pleased. I don't know. And there was a poignant bit. There's a screenwriter called Christopher McQuarrie who did the screenplay for the film Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. And the script, when he comes to the sort of end of it, delves into the nature of work and its impact. There's a character in it, Luther, his name is. I don't think, because his death comes early on, I don't think I'm spoiling the movie by telling you that Luther dies in this movie. Luther Stickle is the name of the character. Anyway, black guy, wonderful actor, and I can't remember the name of the actor. Anyway, he dies nobly. Noble way, anyway. And he leaves a message. And am I spoiling the movie for you by telling you the message of this dying man? I don't think so. It's still a good little yarn, and I don't think this is a spoiler to tell you this guy's message, because I liked it. His closing monologue could be a message to us all, presumably written by Christopher McQuarrie. Well done, Christopher. It goes, "The world is still here, and so are you. I hope in time you can see this life is not some quirk of fate. This was your calling, your destiny, a destiny that touches every living thing. Like it or not, we are masters of our own fate. Nothing is written. And our cause, however righteous, pales in comparison to the impact of our effect. Any hope for a better future comes from willing that future into being. A future reflecting the measure of good within ourselves. And all that is good inside us is measured by the good we do for others. We all share the same fate, the same future, the sum of our infinite choices. One such future is built on kindness, trust, and mutual understanding, should we choose to accept it, driving without question towards a light we cannot see. not just for those we hold close, but for those we'll never meet. Now, gosh, that touched my heart. I thought it was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful word or two, a sentence or two. And the movie's worth it just for those lines. Those lines from a dying guy. It is just a beautiful, beautiful bit of touching ideology, really, or philosophy. And it reminded me, made me think a little about some of the greats when it comes to philosophy. And I thought this time, I would share a couple of their thoughts with you. And a lot of philosophy is about choices and about the importance of making choices. And there's, there are so many wonderful men and women in the world. I quite like. He's not a major philosopher, but he's a nice little one. His name is Slavoj Žižek. Yes, you got it. He's Slovenian. He's about the same age as me. A very eccentric Marxist philosopher. He makes little cameo cinemas. There's one where he's sort of pretending to be the drowning guy in that movie, The Titanic. You know, the drowning hero, and he pretends he's got himself pretending in a movie. He got himself he set himself up and he says, and as he's drowning, he says, "You can never get rid of me. All the ice in the world cannot kill a true idea." And then down he goes and drowns. Zizek, this is okay. He's a bit of a clown, but he's a philosopher, and he likes to stage things. And one of the key elements in his philosophy is the business of free will and the act of will. He's actually not a believer. He's not a believer in God, but that doesn't matter. He makes a subtle distinction in his theory of free choice. He says it's better not to say no, but to say, "I would prefer not to." Okay? Your choices are either you say yes, or "I would prefer not to." The beauty of the saying "I would prefer not to" rather than saying just no is that we're not simply refusing an option, we're creating a gap, a space for new possibilities to emerge. So say "I would prefer not to" instead of saying "I know." I kind of like that. Other philosophers I like. I quite like. Well, there's so many, aren't there? But I quite like Safavi. Now, Safavi is a living philosopher, a Sufi, and I have to be honest. I know the guy, so that affects my thinking. And he's a couple of years younger than me, but he's still ratcheting up there. But and he's one of these philosophers that believes that mercy trumps justice, that mercy is more important than justice. Much challenged by the Gaza war, of course, but it still applies. You know, because for the Israelis, mercy should trump justice. This is the great problem with utilitarianism. Utilitarianism is the theory that the greatest good for the greatest number is best. Well, it isn't really, is it? It isn't, because if utilitarianism gets corrupted, and so you get a kind of parochial utilitarianism, where you say, okay, what's the greatest good for the greatest number of Israelis? And then that excuses the abuse and mistreatment of Gazans, many of whom might have been innocent, because it serves your cause, but not the cause of humanity. So for you, if you're an Israeli, mercy should trump justice, not utilitarianism. And that applies everywhere. Anyway, the interesting thing about Safavi to me is his theory about death, because he thinks that the most important relationship we have, I mean, of course, there's a Sufi, he cherishes his relationship with God, who he thinks within whom we live and move and have our being, much as St. Paul does. I'm not sure they're right, but that's not the point. The point is, he places huge emphasis on your relationship with society, as you should, and he believes that there isn't really a heaven and a hell in the normal sense, because it's not a choice between two extremes, and there's one place where fire is burning, and there's another place where there are lots of maidens all dancing around with fig leaves. It is heaven and hell of your own making, if you're a Sufi like Safavi. We are creating, I'm quoting you directly, we're creating in our lives, what we're creating in our lives is the heaven or hell of our own actions, and this conduct determines our pain or comfort as we transcend from our earthly being to the next manifestation. Now, I like that. So, our relationship with others matters. Yeah, doesn't it just? It's poignantly important. Poignantly important. That's why I don't like some of the philosophers around, like Kant. You know, why don't I like Kant? Immanuel Kant. I mean, he was the German philosopher. He lived from 1724 to 1804. Hugely important philosopher, central figure in philosophy. But basically, he believed that we should be that you should be morally perfect, right, in your way, and why not, you say? But then there are all sorts of problems. I mean, in my youth, I had a lot of relationship with moral rearmament, the movement, which has now died out. It limps on under the name Initiatives of Change, but they've lost their bite, really, as a movement, and they're now just a little group. But when they were a movement, many philosophers, we got modern philosophers cut from the same cloth as Kant. There's a one called MacIntyre, who's Alistair MacIntyre, Scottish by birth, philosopher, rooted in the ancient Greek thought that emphasizes the development of virtuous character rather than focusing on outcomes. It doesn't work, you see, because outcomes matter. Look at the world. Outcomes matter. And you can't if you want to sit on a fig leaf somewhere, fig leaf, or whatever leaf or caterpillar sits on, I don't know. If you want to sit somewhere and watch the world go by, fine. Then don't care about outcomes. You can just study being virtuous. But it doesn't work. I mean, at all sorts of levels. For example, I always found this with Moriyama. They were too honest. They believed in absolute honesty, absolute truth. I mean, I'm a member of the... I am. I did subscribe to this movement. I devoted a lot of time to it, and I love the people in it. But absolute honesty, absolute truth, absolute love, and absolute purity. All very well, but absolute honesty? There was a tendency amongst MRA people to be like Kant. And so absolute honesty, yes, like I'm, ancient Greek, I'm virtuous. I'm going to be absolutely honest. It can be hugely cruel, being absolutely honest. I've seen it. Ruthless sometimes when people pursue it. No. You care about outcomes. You care about the damage you're doing to other people. Outcomes are always more important than yourself. Arabs have a proverb, my toothache is worse than 100 dead in Jerusalem. Well, so it is to you. But God is watching. And that doesn't work. Israel or whomever, I mean, I had a lot of sympathy for Russia at one stage as being the underdog in Ukraine. I'm not sure anymore. They've had opportunities for peace. They haven't taken it. They haven't taken it. Damn. Honestly. Too much pride in the world. Too much pride, too much... Anyway, there are a lot of interesting philosophers around. I'm a great lover, actually, or have grown to be a great lover of what's his name? The Kierkegaard. Soren Kierkegaard. I mean, he's lovely, isn't he? I don't know whether you know him, but he says, the things we fear, I'm quoting from him exactly, the things we fear the most have already happened to us. He emphasizes the importance of anxiety in making decisions. Your free choice. I mean, there are philosophers that think you don't have freedom of choice, but that's nonsense. I'm sorry. You do. You're responsible for your actions. No escape. You can't dodge it and blame your animal nature and circumstance. Your poor circumstances. Oh, poor you. Oh, I didn't have any choice. We all have choice. We're all perfectly free. And, Kierkegaard emphasizes the importance of, well, in a way that other philosophers don't really, the importance of the choices you have. And he's very, very interesting. Some call him the first existentialist philosopher, though most existentialists don't like the word existentialist. Not sure that they agree with being existentialist. That's an existentialist response to existentialism. Anyway, and nobody quite defines these things anyway. Interesting. But you see, Kierkegaard sees Christianity, which was his religion, and he was a religious guy. He sees it not as a set of doctrines. If you throw a set of doctrines at Kierkegaard, he would just, I mean... So many Christians these days are doctrinal. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, all this kind of bull shit. Honestly, what are you talking about? Do you know? You don't know, do you? And I mean, but. He was Christian, and he saw his Christianity as a as a way of life. He emphasized, the importance of individual responsibility, not doctrine. Yeah. And I like Kierkegaard. Here's my favourite bit of Kierkegaard. Quoting him again, if I were to wish for anything, I would not wish for wealth or power. Well, good man, I might, but anyway, he won't. He's not going to wish for wealth or power, but for the passionate sense of the passionate sense of the potential, for the eye which, ever young and ardent, sees the possible. Pleasure disappoints. Well, that's what Kierkegaard says anyway. Pleasure you might not agree with him there, but he says, pleasure disappoints, possibility never. Possibility never. And what wine is so sparkling, what so fragrant, what so intoxicating as possibility? Well, he's right, isn't he? That's why I like Zizek, yeah? Don't say no, say greater space for possibility, even say I prefer not to. And that's why I like the line in that movie where he said, we all share the same fate, the same future, the sum of our infinite choices. One such future is built on kindness, trust, and mutual understanding, should we choose to accept it, driving without question towards a light we cannot see. What do you think this purpose of life is? I often think that we are made in the image of God. By the way, there's a lovely Jewish philosopher who I quite like, who really is a philosopher actually drawn to my attention by the Muslim guy, by Safavi, and I quite like his thinking, and it's touching. And he's a rabbi, Polish by birth, but spent most of his life in America. And I quite like him. Abraham Joshua Heschel. And he believes God is kind of hidden God, but he thinks of God not as anthropomorphic, right, which is what some Christians talk about God, God incarnate, taking human form. But he thinks, this is Jewish rabbi, he thinks of God as anthropopathic. Hell of a word, isn't it? Anthropopathic. That God has human feelings. Well, if we're born, created in the image of God, then we are created in the image of... Then God does have human feelings. Why the heck not? I mean, what is the greatest conceivable being? A being that has compassion and love. I mean, you can't kill love, can you? You can't kill the spirit. Nothing you can do can kill love. The love you have in your heart for others, for the world you cherish, nothing can destroy that. Nothing can take that away. It is indestructible. You might turn to dust, but that love is eternal. That nothing can make it not have happened. Your love for the flowers and the bees and the buttercups and your beloved, whoever he or she is, nothing can remove that. Nothing can destroy it. It's indestructible. Love is a force, a huge force. I often think that the whole of creation was created as a counterpoint to God. I mean, there's a Christian tradition that the church is the bride of Christ, or somehow that God, well, all of how does, if you believe in a God who is infinite, some now say that the whole universe is infinite. That's, I mean, modern cosmologists are moving in that direction, thinking that way. The whole universe is infinite, without end. Without end. You could throw yourself 1 billion miles in that direction, or 1 billion light years, and there'd be another chunk of planets and so on and so on. That it is without end. It had a beginning, but it is endless in size. That's modern cosmology for you. Wow, whack that into your pipe and smoke it. I mean, so, where are we going with this? I mean, everything is full of potential, bursting with potential. And it's interesting, isn't it? There aren't many other life-supporting planets in the universe. We know that the latest thinking, which is pretty credible, that there is 120 light years, which is not that far. There is a planet that will have some form of life, because they can tell from the biological footprint, of the chemical footprint of the light from the glimpsing they can get now with these modern telescopes from that star, that planet. So there is life, but intelligent life? Pretty rare. So you're pretty special, and you've been created by this God. And maybe we won't last very long the way we're messing up the world. But what's the point of us? Why does God create the parameters for intelligent life, which she has done that? Alawites call God the great unknown. I like that expression. The great unknown has done that, created. There's a God. It's obvious there's a God. So you don't believe it? Oh, I can't prove it to you. Obvious in my experience. So why does God create the parameters for life? Because there's a need for a counterpoint if you're going to grow, the bride of Christ idea. And ultimately there's a new future, a new perspective out there somewhere. And we're all part of that. Your life has ripples. And you might not recognize your importance, but you are important. Oh, and if you believe in a God, then your life is as important as anybody else's. Anybody else's, you know that. I mean, because as important as Jesus, or as important as anybody in all creation, think, if you had children, or you can get the idea of having children. If you don't have kids, you know what it's like. You love one, okay. You think you've got all the love in the world for this one child. And then another one comes along, you love that child. You love it more or less? No, you love it totally. Another one comes along, you love that child. You love that one totally. And there is no, whatever mess they get, you still love them totally. There's not more love for one because it's more intelligent than the next one, or whatever, or makes more. No, you love them all. You love all the children you have with total love. Inevitably, you have no choice about that. Same for God. He's going to love you as much as he loves Jesus. I'm sorry. So, is there a soul? An interesting issue, the issue of a soul. I mean, I looked at various philosophers. I mean, Descartes is interesting on that. But a soul. I mean, he kind of equates the soul with mind. Yeah. I don't know. I think there is an essential part of you that cannot be destroyed. Think of a computer. Computer has a computer has RAM, memory, you know. Well, that can come or go. I mean, you can plug new memory and take memory away. That can come or go, and then it has hardware and so on. But the CPU, the central processor, is the identity of that computer. Now, if you could make a kind of cosmic CPU, nothing could destroy it. I think that's the soul. Not your mind as such with the memory and stuff and all that bits can, but the central essence of you, what makes you you, is indestructible. I mean, memory, there's an eternal memory in the mind of God that we'll all plug into, I suppose, ultimately. But so what I'm trying to say is that there is an essence of you that is something other than memory, but is something perfect that goes on. I believe. You mustn't get too besotted with yourself. I mean, that's the problem of Nietzsche, isn't it? You remember Nietzsche, that philosopher. I mean, it's very attractive if you're in bad state. Nietzsche was a German philosopher, poet and composer, 1844 to 1900. You remember he said, God is dead. Silly boy. But that's what people remember him for. But he believed in the will to power. He believed that you had to... He was almost Marxist in his thinking. You remember Marx said there are hammers and there are anvils, and you can either be a hammer or you can be an anvil, and you need to be a hammer. But that kind of approach to life is a little bit too cruel, ruthless. There's truth in it. But I prefer Safavi's idea that, well, amor vincit omnia, that compassion matters and mercy above all else. I've always been attracted to Khalil Gibran, and if you haven't read his book, The Prophet. Of course, it's a little soppy, and it's maybe a doctrine for hippies and sitting on lotus leaves, but there's lots of beauty in it. People used to read his passage on love, which is all about personal sacrifice. And come on, we have too much personal sacrifice, maybe. I don't know. But essentially, I like it because we need a bit more soppiness in the world. Getting a bit too hard, a bit too selfish, a bit too Nietzsche-like. I mean, even the people you associate with selfishness, Machiavelli, right? They had a greater ideal. You remember Machiavelli was ruthless. He said, you invade a people and you, thump them, but don't thump them all the time. Otherwise, the worm will turn. No, thump them once, then be nice to them for a while. Machiavelli. Well, no, terribly selfish ideology, but selfish with a little sense. Machiavelli, I always liked Machiavelli. He said, you aim for a target. Aim high. Pull the bow and aim high. Your arrow will hit the target. If you just aim at the target, you're going to miss it. It's going to go down to the ground. Aim high. That's Machiavelli, by the way. Yeah, interesting. In the Prince, he says that. This book. No, we need to think a little about the lives we lead and the way we are going. There is a God. You've got to live with that. It's just a fact. But God may not have the priorities of the religious establishment. Nietzsche is right, you create your own morality. Just make sure it's a good one, not power-driven as Nietzsche would have it. No, create a morality that is full of mercy and compassion. And be merciful with yourself. It's no good, total sacrifice is no good if you drive your own ship onto the rocks. You're so busy sacrificing yourself for others. You must look after yourself. You matter. You're going to change the world, and we all must try and change the world. You cherish yourself. Otherwise, there's no hope for building a better tomorrow. And that's what we're all about, aren't we? Once more with the lines from that movie. I'm going to leave you alone then. I just liked it. I like the concluding remarks, so I'll just throw them at you again. I hope in time you can see this life is not some quirk of fate. This was your destiny, your calling, a destiny that touches every living thing. Like it or not, we are masters of our fate. Nothing is written, and our cause, however righteous, pales in comparison to the impact of our effect. Any hope for a better future comes from willing that future into being, a future reflecting the measure of good within ourselves. And all that is good inside us is measured by the good we do for others. We all share the same fate, the same future, the sum of our infinite choices. One such future is built on kindness, trust, and mutual understanding, should we choose to accept it, driving without question towards a light we cannot see, not just for those we hold close, but for those we will never meet. Okay. Well, there you go. That's my thought for Eid. I hope it's appropriately spiritual and it's of some help. God bless you and God keep you this time and this day and this year and always. Amen to that. Bless you. Thank you.